writers and readers, I'm Christy Stratus, and today I thought we would continue our viewers request series with the next in the series, and that is lengthening your book. So the first thing I have to say about this is a disclaimer. If you've written your book and it came out really well, you're very happy with the character development, you're happy with the story, everything is great, you have no issues with it, but you're just not happy with the length, personally, I would not go messing with it trying to make it longer or shorter, but especially not longer, because you can mess up the flow of it if it's like perfect as is, but you just really wanted it to be a novel. Personally, I just wouldn't do that, but obviously it's up to you. It's just my 2 cents. Now into actually lengthening the book. There are a few ways you can do this. We're going to talk about 3 different ways, and so the first one is by adding in subplots. So this is, I think it's relatively easy, but where you're going to come out with the biggest challenge is to make sure that the subplot, now that you're adding it sort of after the fact, like you've gotten to the end of your book and you're saying, oh, it's not quite long enough, I really wanted it to be longer for whatever reason, you need to make sure that whatever subplot you put in doesn't stick out like a sore thumb. Like, it has to be well integrated. It can't seem like you just stuck it in there. Just like when a character speaks or does some kind of action that's necessary, you want to, of course, make sure it doesn't sound like the author needed that to happen, and so it's just sort of there and sort of out of context, out of character. Same kind of thing with the subplot. You don't want it to stick out as if it's just something that you put in there. So even if it's sort of running parallel to what's going on and the two, like the main plot and the subplot, don't actually intermix or cross for whatever reason, usually at least towards the end they would. There's some kind of relation between them, but even if not, it has to sort of fit with the rest of the book. So that would be my one big caution to you. But adding in subplots is almost always a good thing, of course, as long as it continues to be a subplot and doesn't end up overwhelming the plot, but you can certainly do that. Another thing that you can think about is characters. You can expand secondary characters' roles, and one of the things I'll tell you, and I think I've mentioned this before, is I have seen, there's one particular book out there that I really like, where when I read one of the reviews, it said something about that this person lowered their review, their stars on their review, because they felt that the one particular secondary character they really wanted to know a lot more about. And so they lowered the star review on that. But the thing is that having that character expand their role would have actually changed like the whole story, the whole book, the scope of it, all of it. And it was really like there wasn't any need for that, and it would have complicated things. But if you're looking to actually expand your book and make it bigger, then one thing you can do is broaden the character's role. And in that case, you could take that character, for example, that character that's sort of like, I don't know, maybe a sidekick or maybe even not quite that, and sort of see how they could maybe accompany your main characters more places. Maybe they have their own subplot, so you're mixing in a secondary character and an additional subplot. You could have some kind of relationship building between even secondary characters, between multiple, secondary characters. And so that's definitely something that could work for you. And you could actually end up with something even stronger because of that. So the third thing that I wanted to tell you is about background. If you can expand the background that's given. Now, the reason I bring up background can mean almost anything. Backstory, things that have happened leading up to this point, could really be anything. But the one thing is, with background, you have to be careful because it is a really delicate thing. So if you overdo the amount of background that you give, and it's obviously there to be filler, then that's not going to work out. People are going to get bored reading about this background that didn't need to be there in the first place. It becomes obvious that it's filler. So just make sure that that doesn't happen. But one thing that does commonly happen, a lot of times, and I saw this in a recent YouTube video, I cannot remember the YouTuber's name. If I remember, I'll put her video down below. She had said that a beta reader of hers read her book and said that the beginning was okay, but the reason it wasn't grabbing her was because there was no background, backstory, nothing leading into it to make that beginning really pop, make us connected to the characters, so that whatever, some kind of, I don't remember if it was traumatic or what the deal was. It was like a really big deal though. Whatever happened mattered, and it just came out sort of flat because there wasn't enough background or backstory. Now that is where you could do really well, and you could add a decent amount of word count to your story, and necessarily it could work out extremely well. So if you sort of pick out those points where maybe you could have expanded more, maybe it would strengthen the story to have more going on. It's hard to give an exact example because I would need to read your book, but I think you get the idea of what I'm saying. Look at your plot points, look at the exciting points, the climaxes, things like that. Make sure that you've got the proper amount of lead up, you've got the proper amount of backstory, character development, everything to make sure that it's really powerful. And if not, then that's where you could be gaining word count too. So I hope this was really helpful. If you have further questions about this or anything else that you'd like to see, leave a comment down below. Please like this video, subscribe for more, and I will see you again soon. Thank you so much for spending time with me.